Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them, with Daryl McCance and Yvette Walker. And now, here's Daryl and Yvette.
Thank you for joining us today on the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker and myself, Daryl McCance, where we highlight successful businesses in Southern California and the people behind them. From awe-inspiring sole proprietors to world-renowned organizations, we just have a lot of fun. And success is what we focus on. And today, we have yet another world-renowned organization, and we are, humbled to have our guest today. Before I let Yvette let the cat out of the bag as to who we have on, I want to put out a special thank you to the team. And that's Mitch and Bill and Sean. And we have our colleagues, Jay Kaplan and Bill Morris, that really help us make this as rich a program as possible. And with that, Yvette, would you take the honors and introduce our guest? I think everyone's going to really enjoy this. Go right ahead, Yvette.
Absolutely. Well, it's absolutely a pleasure and a complete honor to be introducing this evening Mark Thorpe, Chief Executive Officer of the Ontario International Airport. As Chief Executive Officer of the Ontario International Airport Authority, Mark Thorpe oversees the operation and economic development of Ontario Airport. With over 18 years of experience in the aviation industry, Mark has experience in dealing with more than 40 countries in the Asia-Pacific region, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Mark played an integral role in the transition of Ontario to local control in 2016, understanding the vision for the airport to be customer-focused, low-cost, and business-friendly. He is committed to transforming the airport into a magnet for economic development. Prior to becoming CEO, Mark was the OIAA's Chief Development Officer. Before that, Mark held leadership roles with Dallas, Fort Worth Airport, and Los Angeles World Airports. He joined OIAA in August 2016 with extensive experience in air service development at Dallas Fort Worth International Airport, and prior to that, Los Angeles World Airports. Mark received his JD MBA from the George Washington University School of Business and Law School. He received his BA in International Business and Latin American History from Arizona State University. Wow, that is quite the impressive bio, Mark. Thank you so much for being here today.
No, glad to be here.
Now, before we get too much further into this, for bragging rights, and then we'll really get off into the details. But our Ontario International Airport is number one in growth, not only in California but in the entire United States. Am I right or wrong?
It has been been named for 3 straight years now the fastest growing airport in the United States by Global Traveler magazine. In terms of recovery of the COVID, we're about third among the top 50 airports in the United States in recovery of traffic this year versus last year, and we've recovered faster than the airport in California.
Nice. I wanted to get out there real quick. That just makes me proud.
Yeah.
That is extremely exciting. Do you want to kind of get us an update on kind of the big picture, and then we'll start throwing some questions at you, but kind of give our listeners a kind of a state of the union on where Ontario International is now and the different components of it, and how you see those components interacting right about now. Sure.
I mentioned earlier, just a moment ago, our recovery in terms of passenger traffic from this year versus last year, in terms climbing out of the deep trough we've all been in the air travel industry due to the pandemic. We're probably about 45% of the way back, which again, as I mentioned, you say pretty often, 45% is an F unless you're grading on a curve. So a lot of other airports in the region are in the 20% recovery level. That will continue to be a challenge for us into 2021. I do think that we're going to start to see some new service announcements, even as rare as those are and as competitive as the environment is to get new airlines and more airline service. I think we have some things that we offer, chief among them, the demographic strength of this region. The reason why traffic's recovered faster here than other parts of Southern California and even the whole state and much of the rest of the United States is that we have a business travel base that has responded pretty well to the pandemic. We don't have a large necessarily corporate travel base, as folks know in the inland counties, but we have a very large small and medium-sized enterprise base, and especially with the strength of logistics, international trade, those companies continue to be on the road, and they're entrepreneurial. They're looking to bring back their business and rebound, and we see quite a bit of that travel bouncing back. And it's great. It's reflective of the dynamism and strength of this economy. And, e-commerce, logistics, international trade, that's been one of the things that's kept this economy afloat. We haven't been able to do business in person. Much of it's been, virtual and over the internet. Those are forms of economic activity that have really allowed the global economy to survive. And this is probably in the entire Western United States, this is the most important point for e-commerce and the movement of those kind of goods, and not just the Inland Empire, but particularly our airport with the hubs for FedEx and Amazon and UPS, and probably, within the next year, even more to come in that regard. But, that cargo traffic has been so important. Typically, I tell people, it's probably the most important thing that happens at an airport for job growth, for economic development. We all get excited about, today's announcement of service to Hawaii or flights to new places, but it's the cargo growth that makes economic activity really happen. And we've been fortunate during the entire pandemic, starting in April, to have had 20 to 30% growth in cargo traffic versus 2019 levels every single month. And I think that'll continue through 2021. That's faster growth than any other airport in continental North America has had this year during the pandemic. I think it'll continue in 2021 because FedEx just opened a really large hub on November 2nd, and so they're going to start to operate here at the airport. We really look forward to being able to build on that cargo traffic growth base, bringing back passenger traffic. But one of the things that we've done that's really been important for us is keep our costs low and competitive. A lot of airports have high levels of debt, have higher costs than we do. We, like most airports around the country, received some federal funding through the CARES Act. We didn't have as much passenger traffic as other airports, so we didn't receive quite as much. But I think what we did was really saw that as those funds came with a public trust. They were taxpayer dollars. We tried to be really careful with them, extend the benefit of those funds as long as we could, and we cut a pretty significant amount of our budget this year in terms of our expenses. As a result of that financial conservatism and a really focused effort on generating non-airline revenue, in other words, revenue from our real estate and from other kind of things that we could do at the airport, we've been able to keep our revenues above our expenses so far this year. Wow. And keep our rates for airline partners flat. So to me, that's a great source of pride in our board and the team of people we've worked with to try to run this. We try to run this airport like it were a private business, and to seek entrepreneurial opportunities to grow the business, to be careful in how we where we invest our resources. And I think we've done a great job this year, probably in the most difficult year that I think myself or anyone in this industry has faced in their career.
Absolutely. And so with that said, I'm going to jump right into this because this is one of the more exciting elements to me, and that is the fact that the Ontario International Airport has the highest traffic for cargo and logistics. So basically goods, shipment of goods and things all around the country. And I'm wondering, what is your perspective on the potential to perhaps draw a manufacturing sector, or just plant a seed for the efficiency that comes with being so close to such a powerful logistics hub like the Ontario International Airport?
That's a great question, Yvette. I think one little kind of explanatory note. the two main cargo airports in Southern California are obviously LAX and Ontario Airport. We're together about probably 98% of air freight that goes in and out of this region, but we're very different. We play different roles. LAX is where a lot of the big freighters come from, Europe and Asia that are tied to individual airlines or all cargo airlines, and belly cargo in the big wide-body planes that are flying transoceanic. Our airport is much more driven by integrators like UPS and FedEx and Amazon. And integrator just means they own the planes and the trucks, and they get it from point A to point Z. The airlines are operating at LAX. There's freight forwarders. There's 4 or 5 other companies involved in that whole process along the way. So very different ways in which the goods are moved. The great thing about being an airport for integrators like the UPSs and FedExs and Amazons is that they create themselves a lot of clusters. The manufacturing or manufacturers, shippers that want to be close to where their services are to be able to do, to deliver their products quickly and predictably. You have a lot of IT and software service providers. You have, now I think more and more with all the warehouses that are around here and the warehouses that FedEx and UPS and, and Amazons will have, even on an airport. I think we're going to see more and more of the robotics development and some of that kind of technology development and implementation in this region too. So they tend to be much more magnets for not just manufacturing, but a lot of downstream type of entrepreneurial development, a lot of just that dynamism and economic activity, because they create, I look at it as they create a portal to the entire world. Right. If you put your business by where Amazon and FedEx are flying to the rest of the world every day.
One more time, for those that just tuned in, we are here with Mark Thorpe, the CEO of Ontario International Airport, and we're getting an update on that incredible airport. Having been born and raised in the area, and just watching the airport over the years transform itself, get better and better and better. I know folks from all over Southern California that are happy to drive out there. It's a humble, calm, easy in, easy out. It's hard to imagine going to an airport and the airport actually relaxing you. It's a real credit to you, Mark. And now that and we're going to talk about all 3 major food groups: personal travel, business travel, and cargo. But I have to say, you guys are sneaky out there being connected with UPS and Federal Express and Amazon. That's neat. The fact that you have all that infrastructure underneath those, all funneling right to the airport where you can do that final step and get it from one of their locations to another. So you're just providing that amazing infrastructure that's, I would think, unlimited. When you look at the growth of those 3 operators all by themselves, and I know you got many others, but just those 3 are amazing. And tell us, how challenged have you been lately with so much going through the integrators and people enjoying it on their computers and ordering product X, and 10 minutes later there's a knock on the door, right? Yeah. So what's that done in the last 1, 2, 3 years from your perspective?
We are on a string of, I think, 5 straight years of record growth each year in cargo traffic. I'd say, though, a lot of credit does need to go to this, the city council here in Ontario, and probably the cities surrounding the area. Ridge Cucamonga, Eastvale, Fontana. This region, I think you've had a lot of leadership in Ontario and other places, and even at the county level, that's been pretty visionary in understanding that this is where the whole Southern California region is, where so much international trade to the entire United States comes through, particularly from the Asia Pacific region. And they've been out in front. Nobody can do it perfectly, but I think they've tried to do they've done a great job and tried very hard to be out in front of managing those economic externalities, and in particular, truck trips and the congestion that can result, and this airport's ideally located because it's by the 10 and the 15 and the 60. And there's really no airport that I've ever seen in my career in the U.S. that's like so perfectly located in terms of access to freeway infrastructure, but just the way streets have been planned. And, the city spends a lot of time, and we spend a lot of time, for example, with FedEx, and we do with UPS, in having them understand which roads are the ones where we want trucks moving up and down and accessing freeways, and keeping truck traffic away from, for example, the front of the passenger terminals. You want that customer experience to be exceptional from the point someone's getting off the freeway and getting to the airport, not just getting through a terminal. So, if you come into the airport, you'll notice that most of the truck trips don't come up and down, Vineyard Avenue or Archibald, the main two access points to the passenger terminals. They focus on Grove and Haven, which are the two streets that kind of border our airport property. And that's not just by happenstance, that's with a lot of planning. And the great thing about FedEx and UPS and Amazon is when you have those big integrators, you're talking to three partners, to have them be good, partners in the way they move their trucks on and off the airport. If you had, kind of the alternative where you have hundreds of different forwarders and trucking companies bringing freight to and from the airport, that's kind of the proverbial herd of cats to try to manage. So, we've been fortunate in that way. But yeah, you can't minimize the impact of that logistics activity on passenger traffic growth as well. It has been a main driver of economic development in this region. And one of the things I like to remind folks, having spent most of my career in Southern California, our region, after we lost aircraft manufacturing at the end of the Cold War, we didn't have, a blue collar sector. And we get excited about, the high end white collar jobs and the higher salary jobs. But the reality is economies grow from a strong blue collar base. And whether it's manufacturing or now, logistics, international trade, this is the first time that I see, because tourism has always been there, but not been a huge growth industry in this region. A lot of filming moved to other places. International trade and logistics and those things have become a real strong blue-collar base, and it's focused around these two counties. It's not just demographic growth. It's not just you have the third highest population of millennials in the United States in San Bernardino and Riverside counties. It's not just that there's less expensive dirt. Those things all may be true. Maybe there's warehouses here because of that. But now warehouses, because of the application of technology, I'd like to say logistics and transportation differ in that logistics is time. Transportation is moving goods, moving a thing one from point A to point B. Logistics is how quickly can you get it there, and the value is tied to time, not the movement. And because of that, there's a value proposition that makes jobs related to logistics much more valuable, because the time is money. It's truly true in logistics. And you see starting wages in warehouse jobs of $17 an hour. People can grow to make $36 an hour and have a career here, stay, in the region, buy a home, raise a family here. And, truck driving jobs are starting at $25 and $26 an hour. If you drive for UPS, those are very high-paying jobs. They're union jobs, good benefits and wages. FedEx pays high wages for jobs. Aircraft mechanic jobs. There's a shortage of truck drivers, a shortage of pilots, a shortage of a lot of those different jobs related to not just transportation today, but logistics. And so, and then all the development of new technologies, not just robotics and automation in a warehouse, but think about drone technology. Ontario is the first city in Southern California that I've seen that's really trying to get ahead on planning for for drone movements. We're probably going to have a lot of it with UPS and Amazon and FedEx here from the airport to the ultimate place of delivery. There's going to be a lot of need for people that are skilled in not just building and designing the drones and charting the flight paths and all that sort of high brain power work. I'm not smart enough to do it, but people smarter than me to plan out and network all those flights of the drones to deliver goods. So the point of that is that's really the exciting thing, is to see how the airport growth creates that knock-on economic activity, and clearly it also creates more passenger demand, not just because people have jobs with more income and disposable income. Homes are more affordable here. People have more money left over to travel after they pay their mortgage. But also just directly, a good example, we had an airline add competitive service into Seattle, a city where we already had flights, but another airline brought in some additional flights, and they said they did it because of Amazon, because of all the, Amazon has 20 million square feet of warehouses down here. They have the hub, their air hub here in Ontario. They're building additional, hub capacity at San Bernardino Airport. They're moving people back and forth from their headquarters in Seattle. So, all those things, it's really kind of a righteous cycle that grows from that economic activity. And ultimately people see the airport, and it is true, the airport is a gateway to the world for people from this region. But an airport really is a place of, probably more so than any kind of infrastructure, a place that creates a lot of outflowing economic development and activity.
Well, as I said before we got going today, there's three things that I just get really, really passionate about, and that's jobs, jobs, and jobs. So as we talked earlier, I mean, that is, if that is working, then you'll see everything work down line. When people, we're very fortunate to be in Southern California, where there's so many things to do, and it's all powered by great jobs, great economic growth. As we talked in getting ready for today's interview, the more discussion about all the exciting things happening out there, and we haven't even touched on some of the other subjects yet, but I just think that it is probably one of the most exciting things in Southern California as far as that whole growth component, which you've already shared with us. It's nationally viewed the same way. And, to that extent, we're going to be going to break here momentarily, but when we get back, if there's anything else in terms of things coming up, anything on the horizon for that whole logistical piece, it'd be great to kind of dig even a little bit deeper into that if possible, and then we'll move over into the only thing that Yvette cares about, which is flying to Maui. When you told her about the new exciting news on Hawaii,
that just made my day. That was wonderful.
Ear to ear smile. And it was very kind of you to put those kind words out about the city of Ontario. For many, 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 many years, I will talk to people from all different corporations that have facilities all over the world, and they will talk about how nothing has compared to how they were treated by the city of Ontario. They really helped them on all the planning issues to get their facilities built. And then obviously the extension to that is Ontario International Airport, and it's neat to see everybody working together for the benefit of the customer, whether the customer is Amazon or Toyota Motor Corp or Porsche or, UPS or, the list just goes on. It's amazing how pretty much everybody is there. I mean, it's almost hard to think of somebody that's not right there. So before we go to break, which will be momentarily, anything else on the subject of logistics?
Well, I think I'd just say, you're right about the city of Ontario. And this is the only time in the history of the U.S. airport industry where an airport's been transferred back to local control. I don't think there's another city that could have done it.
That's great.
The reason why Ontario did it. I think the key thing to look forward with the logistics is there may be more to come. If you look at the airport, there's still a lot of real estate we have to develop. Nothing we can announce yet, but I think 2021 we're going to see even bigger and more exciting news on that front.
Well, we're going to be right back after the break, and we're going to pull some of that out of you. Don't think you're going to be able to get all those secrets, okay? We're going to pull it out. And again, we're here with CEO Mark Thorpe, Ontario International Airport. Yvette Walker and I will be right back after the break.
$10,000 or more to the IRS or state? Did you miss sending out a prior year tax return? The IRS is out to collect now more than ever, and they'll use any means necessary. They legally can and will garnish your wages, take your money, and even seize your property. If you're behind on your taxes, call the Tax Relief Hotline right now at 951-224-9000. That's 951-224-9000. 951-224-9000. You can legally get your tax debt under control and in many cases get the breathing room you need. Garnished wages, property seizures, bank levies can stop immediately, but you have to call. Many of our specialists are IRS enrolled agents. They know the system and how to make it work for you. Don't wait for the IRS to come down on you. Act now so you can get your tax debt under control. Call the Riverside office today for free info at 951-224-9000. That's 951-224-9000. 951-224-9000.
Your Pharmacy and Mobility Solutions now has Pack Your Meds. That's right, just add water. You order 5 or more prescriptions from Your Pharmacy and Mobility Solutions, and they will pack your meds for you in AM/PM marked packs. No more sitting down and counting and dropping them on the floor. You remember, it's not fun. I didn't like it. So now they'll do it for you. Safe, sealed, and dated. So call Your Pharmacy and Mobility Solutions at 951-845-8252.
Hello, listeners. This is Christopher from The Christopher Show. Hey, if you missed one of our shows here at KMET, don't worry about it. You can go to our webpage, and that's KMET1490am.com. Go to the homepage, click on the SoundCloud tab, and hear any show anytime you want.
Join Daryl McCance and Yvette Walker every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM, and on the internet at KMET TV for the Southern California Business Report. The show is dedicated to highlighting successful businesses and the individuals behind them. Daryl and Yvette interview the incredible people managing these enterprises that range from awe-inspiring sole proprietors to world-renowned organizations. The Southern California Business Report, Tuesdays at 3 p.m. on KMET AM and on the internet at KMET TV.
KMET Banning.
Welcome back to the Southern California Business Report. We have a very, very, very special guest, Mark Thorpe, CEO, Ontario International Airport. Yvette Walker and I are having more fun than we're entitled to on this interview, talking about jobs that are coming out, high-paying jobs, very satisfying careers, living in an area, Southern California, that it just doesn't get any better. We're approaching 25 million population in our little region here of 10 counties, from San Luis Obispo to San Diego. And dead center is the Ontario International Airport. Before we went to break, Mr. Mark Thorpe was telling us how fortunate they are to be so located, so things move so smoothly in and out. It's just amazing. I've been there countless times, and it's almost relaxing to go to Ontario International Airport. People find that hard to believe if they've ever been to any other airport. And they're only convenient from 4 directions: north, south, east, and west. So, and you can't beat that. So anyway, before we went to break, we were trying to pull some secrets out of Mark, and we've been talking about the logistics, and it's not necessarily sexy. It's a lot more fun to move over to Yvette's favorite topic, which is flying nonstop to Hawaii.
Oh, I don't know. Logistics and business is very sexy to me too. So
you better believe it. But it is one of the real critical engines in Southern California. So, anything new and exciting that we can look forward to that you're allowed to talk about on the topic of logistics as we go forward 1, 3, 5 years out?
Yeah, one thing that I can talk about that is public, because the county's acted on it. You said wonderful things, and deservedly so, about the city of Ontario, and we could talk about an hour about what foresight the city's had. But we're also fortunate to have as our other owner of the Joint Powers Authority is County of San Bernardino. And at their meeting last month, County of San Bernardino, the Board of Supervisors voted to have their staff explore using some of the remaining CARES Act funds that they have to help us set up a cold chain logistics facility here at Ontario Airport, designed for the distribution of the vaccine that we're all expecting coming in 2021. But also, what it would do is actually let us. It's something we've been looking to do for quite a while. But this. A use of CARES Act funds like that would be kind of the starter capital necessary to build what I think is a really exciting and important business. The way that pharmaceuticals move around the world today, there has to be certification for the airport, certification for the airline. There's only about 2 or 3 airports in the United States that have that certification, and they're all in the East Coast and the Northeast. And then Dallas. But we would be the first one in the western half of the United States to do that. It's something we're going to try to do in the first quarter next year. Not, again, just take care of the pandemic, but to be able to respond to future public health crises and to have, that portal for not just pharmaceuticals, but also a lot of high-value, temperature-sensitive goods that go into and out of a region. That's exciting for us if we're able to pull it off. And again, that's just one of the benefits of not just having partners like the county, but I'd also say, one of the things we don't do is give a lot of elected officials credit when they do great things. I've never worked at an airport that's had a congressional delegation this committed to supporting the airport. The transfer of the airport would never have happened without Senator Feinstein. She was the person who ultimately got the city of Los Angeles and Ontario together and made it happen. We have in Ken Calvert and Norma Torres, two massive champions for the airport. Pete Aguilar as well. Paul Cook, who's now going to be a supervisor in San Bernardino County, was a big supporter. But I've never been in an airport where you have a core 5 or 6 members of Congress who really champion and want to see the growth of the airport and understand how important an airport is for economic development. And it's becoming something that's even more regional. We had Chairman Royce, when he was in the Congress before, until he retired a few years ago, he was very involved in bringing the Taiwan flight to the airport. And now Young Kim, I think she's interested in kind of being involved as Chairman Royce used to be. So we've benefited from that as well with, just the CARES Act monies that were focused on airports and transportation and infrastructure. So, I think there's a lot more to come. And one of the areas that we've benefited from is having that congressional understanding and involvement about how much impact there is when there is investment. With the infrastructure bill that I think everybody expects, we have some great partners to help us have this be one of the things front and center where, and not investment in our day-to-day activities, but for example, we have on the airport property hundreds of millions of dollars of demolition work we have to do to get rid of old military buildings that when the airport was transferred back after the Cold War, during the BRAC rounds, when they closed bases at the end of the Cold War, most places received money to clean up or clean up old military facilities. We never did. So we have we're getting a lot of help from Congress in trying to find a solution to that. And those are the kind of things where you have elected officials and leaders that see the value of some of those things only the government can invest in and do to clean up things that were from government activity before. But what they see is how much economic potential it unlocks. And especially for logistics, we not only have all the activity we have today, but if you look at an aerial map of the airport, there's hundreds of acres of additional land that we can dedicate to logistics, and that's not even including additional future passenger terminals, right? That's just the cargo and logistics side of things. We have much more growth. We have a much longer runway, and I think that's what you'll see us focus on in the next few years. Some stuff I can't talk about, but I think there's some pretty exciting news of expansions and new.
Well, we got some secrets out of you there. I'm making little notes here. We like to get 3 or 4 secrets, so that's that's just downright exciting that you guys have the capacity and the plan. The old saying is, people don't plan to fail; they just fail to plan. And the airport and the city, and now you mentioned the county, and then you have state that are all really putting a nice comprehensive plan together there. The neighborhoods, Yvette and I, we get a kick out of, we're talking to people in the mountains, the desert, the coast, the whole thing. And one thing I hear over and over and over again is how the air travel is so respectful of all the different regions around the airport. If you want to just chat about that, and again, we're excited to have Mark Thorpe, CEO of Ontario International Airport, on the Southern California Business Report today. If you want to kind of talk to that for a minute, Mark, that would probably be that. I think people would love to hear that in the region.
We really, you mentioned, failing to plan. I think our big focus here is always on strategy and vision. Everything flows from your vision of what you think you are, what you want to be, being realistic about what you think you can be, right? Don't be delusional with yourself. So in getting the airport back, we really looked at it, and we've talked a lot about the logistics and the cargo part of it. But on the passenger side of things, what we looked at and we saw was that great cities around the world have multiple international gateways, have multiple major airports. And in this region, we have depended on LAX. 80% of our traffic goes out of LAX. That wasn't having worked there. It's one of the great airports in the world. It wasn't by design. It wasn't because, LAX wanted to hog all the traffic. I don't think they still do today. But, what we have needed to do is get to where we have airlines also understand that it's better for their customers, and they're going to get a better return in terms of airfares and premiums people will pay by offering them more convenient, great service. We're not going to ever be able to grow to be the size of LAX. We could probably grow to be 35 to 40 million passengers someday. But we really look at ourselves and kind of style ourselves as, a boutique airport may be a bit too, mawkish of a way to phrase it, but really that concept of focusing on a different kind of experience. And that's not to say that, bigger, giant, much larger airport is a bad experience, just a different kind of experience. There's great things about connections and nonstop flights, more places. We'll never match an LAX toe-to-toe in terms of all the same flights, all the same places, or all the same number of airlines, or even sometimes, the exact same low fares at the same level. Just because that's a function, it's a simple economic, supply-demand equilibrium point. It's pretty mathematical, right? So what we can do, though, is bring in more flights, more places, more competition. Maybe not flights to, 20 cities in Asia, but maybe, 8 to 10 eventually, and maybe not, in multiple cities in Europe, maybe 3 to 4 destinations in Europe. And I'm not saying that as a limiting factor, just being realistic. We're going to be much more of an airport that's focused on the customer experience. And so we'd rather not grow to be as big as we could possibly be, but rather grow to where we can have the most exceptional opportunity we can give people. And so, it may not be, 4 airlines flying, 10 flights a day to London. It may be one flying, 1 or 2 flying a flight each day. But it gives people those options, and it gives people an alternative, and it gives them a more predictable experience getting to the airport, getting through the airport, and much more of a focus on when they're here. We want to be focused. We want to be looking at how do we, if we can't remove some of the barriers that people typically have in an airport or potential bad experiences, how do we have a means for them to resolve that and have tools? We've invested a lot in our, we call it our OASIS team, OACES. They're our airport customer experience specialists. And they are there we have someone on site in the terminals 24 hours a day. They're there to resolve issues, to help people with challenges they might have, to just have that kind of white glove treatment for everybody that comes through the airport. We are trying to do a lot of things to change the way, change the way even people can do commerce at the airport. We're moving commercially. The good thing is we got an airport back with a lot of shuttered restaurant and retail spaces. That's not a good thing. But the good thing about it is you have the ability to kind of start from a blank slate. So one of the things we're going to do is focus less of our square footage on people walking through and having stands of T-shirts and chocolates and this and that and the other that you'd find in any airport. And we maybe focus more on the experience of certain products with sponsors that want to highlight a product, and then have a big video wall where people can, a big LED screen wall where people can just order what they want, have it delivered to their home, or pick it up in a locker near baggage claim when they return. We're in the middle of hundreds of millions of square feet of distribution centers. Why are we why do we waste our floor space on the products themselves instead of, the experience of the product, and then let people, have e-commerce be at the airport just as much as anywhere else, so that you can buy stuff that, you're not limited by what you can fit into your suitcase. If you pack like I do and only carry carry-ons, you can't buy much anyway. So that's kind of some of the stuff we're thinking about looking at, much more where we use technology to let the passenger drive and customize their own experience at the airport. But even with our social media, we're trilingual, with Spanish, Mandarin, and English, to try to be more responsive to people that are flying, in and out of this airport. So I think what you'll see is that we do get a lot more growth. The service announcement today to Hawaii was exciting. As well as Frontier a month ago to 5 or 6 more cities, and Volaris adding Mexico City to their Guadalajara flights. But, I think there is more of that to come. But the key thing for me, the measure for me, is that we continue to have our passengers excited enough to want to vote us the fastest growing airport or the best airport. That's the ultimate return for us, is when the people that fly in and out of here like to do it. And also when, as much as we all would love to have, equal low fares to, LAX, for example, That's not going to be a reality. But what we see at this, there will be lower fares clearly as we get more competition. But one of the great things about this airport is people pay a premium to fly out of here. They will pay more for the convenience, for the predictability. And that's exactly what is what you need to get more airline service. The airlines take note of that. They see that. This was the most profitable airport in Southern California for airlines in terms of margin in 2019. And, you're starting to see airlines respond to that and understand that there's a value proposition. People will pay for their time, and again, part of that is when I say boutique, what we're looking at is the highest value segment of a travel market is the business traveler. And so that's really our North Star. It doesn't mean we don't want a lot of leisure travel or service to leisure destinations. Clearly we do. But we all know that when we're traveling for work, we pay more to fly. We spend more when we are traveling because our time is really valuable when it's our work time. When it's my family of 5 and we're going somewhere, I'm eating at McDonald's. I'm not, I'm not spending much time shopping because I'm more worried about, making sure my kids all get on the plane. You're worried about
your wife isn't giving you a big expense account.
Yeah. Well,
meal.
Yeah, and even without that, I mean, you're gonna be worried about. We don't charge for Wi-Fi, but you're paying for Wi-Fi, or you're looking to be in a lounge where you can have access and do work quietly and those kind of things. You're in more of a spending mode anyway because you're traveling for business. Your time is money, and frankly, that's where we're going to be focused with a lot of the amenities as being a business traveler's airport in the kind of offerings that we give. Even when I talked about retail, part of the reason for that is business travelers tend to buy stuff to take home to their family when they're traveling on a work trip. So again, the thing where you can buy it, have it shipped to the house, or pick it up in a locker, that's all geared towards that kind of traveler profile. And again, I think we'll see, certainly the Hawaii flight is going to be a leisure destination, and that's the kind of traffic that will attract. But our core identity is going to be as an airport like I'd say John Wayne is, that business travelers love, that they love to use, and that if we can convince the road warriors that this is their airport of choice, they're traveling dozens and dozens of times a year. And I know people say that that'll be slow to recover. In my career in the airline industry and air travel, business travel is never that slow to recover. It's usually an 18-month. This one might be a little bit longer, but it might be faster because the vaccine changes things like that. And it's very different from an economic recession kind of thing. So, we're going to continue to be geared toward that segment just because it's the highest return for our airline partners. It's the highest return for us. They're paying more for parking. We still have parking for, you can pre-book your parking, and you can get spots that may be $24, $28 a day, sometimes for $10, $12 a day if there's available spaces. But it's sort of whatever's available kind of a thing, right? But clearly the passenger that's more valuable is not as a traveler, don't get me wrong, but more valuable to us as a business is the business traveler that is paying the roll-up rate, because again, they're on an expense account and their company is not quibbling over $20 a day because the business they're on is more valuable than that. So that's where you focus. You still give the options that are lower cost, discounted. Certainly we want that to be available to people, but you succeed by kind of knowing who you are and focusing on where you can be most successful. And that's where we have the unique proposition. We can't get into that race of, we have the same number of airlines and the same number of destinations. We will never grow that big. But what we can do that can't be matched is, say, for 10 million of the 18 million people in Southern California, we're really convenient. You can get here and pretty predictably. If you live 40 miles to the west of this airport, you can get to this airport in the morning in 45 minutes. Because you're going against traffic. And if you time it right, you're going against traffic going home from your trip as well. Those are kind of unique things about this airport, and that's what we need to sell to people, is that convenience, the access to the airport. I know if I leave at 10, I'm not going to be there any later than 11. Whereas sometimes driving to coastal airports in the morning, it's roulette. You're at the mercy of what may or may not be happening on the freeways.
It can be hours.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to touch on something, because as a business traveler and as a passenger, just for, vacationing, I have to say the streamlined, efficient, timely process to get through the airport when I'm either flying out or flying back is exactly what Daryl talked about. And that is when you arrive, it's like a deep sigh, it's, because you're going to get through. It's efficient, it's streamlined, it's perfect. And you're right when you talk about, building in a premium for that, because yes, I would much rather pay a premium for that than drive out 40 more minutes and have to Uber into a terminal and maybe get one or not get one, and then have to, walk across all of this craziness. And that I just love about Ontario International Airport. And with that, I also want to touch on a very big part of your streamline and your customer service to your ADA passengers. We have a very large population of people, whether it's for aging purposes or disabilities, that rely on those ADA options and capabilities. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you have pursued that and how you've implemented that in the Ontario International Airport?
Yeah, sure. We with the airport, when we got it back in 2016, it had been built after the ADA, came into law in 1992. But there were some things that were still, had been built about 6 years after that. So there were still some things that cannot, minor things that have been missed. And it doesn't sound like much, but, the first phase was things like, curbs that didn't have, there weren't sloped curves, so people in wheelchairs couldn't access those, the curbs out in front of the terminals, that sort of thing. Making sure that all of our cab companies and even the TNC companies, Lyft and others, that they offered that option of access, of handicap ADA compatible, vehicles. That's really important for people to get to and from the airport. Some of the things were as simple as having, elevators that were much more functional, and making sure that they were always in service and that sort of thing. But I think a big part of it, honestly, is the human element of it. I mentioned earlier about our Oasis folks. We also have a really large team of volunteer travelers aides who help folks who are, more so stranded travelers. But between our Oasis folks and our travelers aid staff, we have people where, if there's the biggest challenge is when there's an unforeseen issue, having someone who can help resolve it. And we have the tools and the ability to get people where they need to be within the airport. But the biggest thing is having someone that can be there to take responsibility for it and resolve the problem. We've begun having kind of town hall meetings regarding ADA issues at the airport. We like to hear about what they are and resolve them. And just, I don't think you ever get to where you perfectly can solve all the problems, but I think we've done a lot of things to try and create better access to the airport. One of the things we're looking at right now is planning a different, a kind of an expansion of the TSA screening area to kind of better manage some of the queuing issues and stuff like that. Looking at different kinds of escalators to put in. We had the escalators we inherited and it's kind of become a running joke, the escalators down in Terminal 4. Well, they were mall escalators. They were not the ones built for, big transportation centers, right? So we finally had to, instead of just repair after 20 years, we just rebuilt the whole things from every single part of it. We're doing the same thing with elevators now, so they're more reliable. And so, but now the next thing is, how do we even rethink the whole passenger screening area there in front of the as you enter into the terminals, and part of that will be how do we better handle and accommodate those who have challenges that can't just go up staircase or up escalators. So thinking through some of those things as well. And there's some things we do that, one of the simple things, believe it or not, that has made it a lot easier is, if you come to the airport during peak periods in particular, you'll see a lot of dogs that are people are being screened with dogs. We were one of the first airports to work with the TSA on that partnership where we get their TSA trained dogs. The dogs either train for explosives or they're trained to smell for drugs, and so they actually they have canine units that. And the Ontario Police Department did it in partnership with TSA. They are able to screen passengers and smell any kind of explosives, and what that means is that everybody that comes in the terminal can be screened by the dogs in big groups, and they become essentially like as if you were a TSA pre-check. So you don't have to go up and take off your shoes. You don't have to. You can go through the screening process much faster because you've already gone through a preliminary screening by the canines. Well, that's also easier for people who have ADA challenges because they've just gone through the first phase of the screening, and then to be able to go up the elevator, go through the second phase, that's faster and easier for them too. So little things like that, it not makes it more efficient, speeds it up, but it also just creates a better experience for everybody.
Hey, Mark, I got a question for you. We're about to wrap the show up, and I don't want you off the hook because one of Yvette's favorite questions is if you can go back in time, because we love the topic of success.
Yes.
And if you could talk to your 18-year-old self and give yourself some advice, do you remember the response you had for that?
Yeah, I think, let me see if I remember my answer.
It starts with dream.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's what I tell my kids, Yep. It's, in fact, I've said it so much around here, we put it up on the walls in our offices.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's dream big, have a plan, work hard, and never quit. And don't be afraid don't be afraid to fail. You're going to learn more through failure than you do through success. The only thing I'd add to what I wrote there, though, is I would tell my 18-year-old self, take advantage of mentors. We talk a lot about networking, but what I found, and now as I'm getting to be older, I see the other side where how much value I get at this stage of my career at helping people at the start of their career. I never understood how much I would never have guessed how many opportunities and how many great possibilities would become available to me in my career because of mentors. Look for people who are further down. Yeah, and well, I hope so. But that to me is what I see now is that for people in the latter half of their career, that's the most enriching part of their career.
Yep.
You don't know that when you're starting your career. If I could tell my kids that, I'd tell them that. Never be afraid to go to someone far along in their career and say, "Take me under your wing and help me."
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Mark Thorpe, CEO of Ontario International Airport. Yvette and I have thoroughly enjoyed this. We're hopeful to get you back as things start to happen out there at the airport. We couldn't wait to get that on air. And with that, I'll wish both of you guys a great day. And
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Thank you all.
I'll come back anytime you will have me.
You got it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
This has been the Southern California Business Report with Daryl McCance and Yvette Walker on KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them. Log on to the show's website